You do that because you don't want to cross to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be in war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you respect him. So out of fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, out of compassion, and that's better. When you worship in Allah, out of compassion and love and respect, because you know how much you owe to him. If you count the mercies and the bounties of Allah upon you right now, if you count your face, how many bounties of Allah are upon your face? You cannot finish. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you count the bounties of Allah upon you, you cannot count them. Look at your eyes, look at your nose, look at your face, look at your mouth, look at your tongue. You can talk, and people can understand what you say. That's the ni'mah of Allah. Look at the animals. They only say one word all the time. No different. They don't change anything. They just say one word all the times. Maybe little variations when they are sad or when they are happy. Little variations, but that's all they say. And they don't make decisions and they don't give speech. You will never find animals listening to another animal, talking to them. Humans are different from other forms of creatures in this world by being able to communicate with each other through the tongue. So Allah gave you that ni'mah. Allah gave you wisdom. Something in your head. They say the brain that we have has a capacity that nobody can even think about it. They say if you divide your brain capacity of memorization capacity into 20 million pieces, 20 million pieces, one piece of it, of that 20 million piece, can contain and remember 20,000 volumes of books, 20,000 volumes, one piece of it. You will never find somebody that his brain is completely full. You have a computer, it has a capacity, memory capacity. It completely, sometimes it's completely full. You need to dump it, or you have to increase the capacity. You will never find someone that remembered or memorized everything they could, and their brain is full. That piece of flesh in your head is marvelous. It runs your life. It runs everything that you do in your life. It's the one that, the machine of your body is. Who gave it to you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who deserves to be respected? Who should be respected? Who should be thanked and praised based on the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no one. So that's called Towhiid al-Uluhiyyah. What do? You worship Him and only Him. This is the problem for many people. They worship graves. They call up for people that passed away a long time ago. You will hear many people that will call for names. The name that was well popular in my country was Sheikh Abdul Qadir and other sheikhs. And by the way, those sheikh, they have nothing to do with this. They have nothing to do with the shirk. This is shirk. If you call anyone, we said the dua is itself ibadah. Itself is a worship, type of worship. And if it's qualified to be a type of worship, it's haram to be given to anyone or directed to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you call anyone, and by the way, if you listen to people that engage those kinds of ibadat, trust me, you will be astonished. I remember one night, I was young, I listened to a man who is preaching ladies, group of ladies. Ladies are always susceptible, vulnerable. People attract them. You know, when they have bad stuff, they get some ladies. So he's preaching few ladies, and he says, my sheikh is awliya, and he is capable of doing stuff. One day, there was a couple that came to him, and they asked him to give them children. They could not find their own children. They could not breed. So they wanted to have offspring, children. They came to him, and he says, the sheikh said to them, I look at the Lawh al-Mahfuz. I just looked the book of the Aqdar with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Arsh. There is nothing for you. He said, there's nothing for you. And he said, now, there are 3 in my bag. I got 3 left in me. I gave you one of them. So he transferred one of his children from his bag to them. I was listening. I heard those in my own ears. Nobody told me. I was a little young man, and I knew the Towhiid. And I was so pissed off, so angry about that man. But what could I do? I was very young. If I go and argue with him, they will kick me out and chase me around. At least they were not going to listen to me. What do you know? You're a little kid. Just go away. Get lost. I heard 2 women talking to each other, my relatives. They were talking to each other. One of them says to another one, do you know that so-and-so, another sheikh, he's Somali guy. This one is Somali guy too. Says, do you know that so-and-so sees the sickness or the disease before it strikes the people? And he protects the diseases to go to the people. He protects people from that disease, the diseases. She said, yes, I do know. So they testified for each other. I was only 5. I was so fantasized with the man. Whoa, that must be Superman, right? You know the kids, I was so fantasized with the man. I became in love with the man. I don't know him, but I love that man. You know, there is a man out there that protects people from sicknesses and diseases. How nice it is. And I love that man so much up until I get sick. I get so angry at that man. Because I felt that he did not protect me. He did not protect me. You know, I got sick. And he was supposed to protect me from that sickness, right? Because that's what they were claiming. I became the most enemy to that person. I don't even know the man. And you know, guess what? In my 30s, between 20 and 30, somewhere there, I saw the man. I met him. And I met him in a small town. He came to a small town. He's telling people, I give you shifa, left or right. If you have any kind of sickness, come to me. And he's making money from people. So they come to him with crazy people that have been crazy 20, 30 years. They need medication. They don't need blessing. He says, I will cure them, left or right. And he was in that city, in that little town, for 1 month. He collected so much money. Everybody's giving like $300, $500, $1,000. He collected so much money. And then he went to another city and he collected the same amount of money. Same, I don't know the amount of money, but same time. Like 1 month here, another month, another city. And guess what? He flew to Europe after the 2 months. And I asked people, what happened to your sheikh? Where did he go? They said he flew to Europe. I said, why? He has a bad knee. He's going to do surgery. I was like, come on. If he cannot cure his own knee, how can he cure you and your sicknesses? Sometimes you have to use just mental capacity. The normal, actual understanding and thinking can prevent you from falling into traps. You know, this man is making money from people, out of people, and he's going to seek medication from doctors. Why he doesn't tell them go to doctors? So this is what it is. Some people, they are just have a problem with people, so they worship those people. When they die, they build their graves and they give them names. And there is one day in every year that people gather upon those graves. And this person, By the way, the sheikh I'm talking about right now, and the sheikh that the other man was talking about are son and a father. So the one he was saying, my sheikh gave a child to a couple from his bag, was the father of this second one. So the whole chain are a blessed chain, and people are worshipping them. This is haram. This will make you a kafir, take you out of religion, depending upon your knowledge, how much you know. If you understand that this is shirk, and this shirk is shirk al-akbar, and will take you out of religion, and you still engage it, that's horrible. If you don't know, if you're jahil, it's one of the excuses that Allah accepts us. And most of the people, the good thing is, most of the people, most of the Muslims engaged with those kind of actions, they are ignorant about the religion. They don't know about shirk and tawheed. So the second tawheed, second type of tawheed is tawheed al-uluhiyyah, or tawheed of worship. Tawheed of worship. The first one, tawheed of creation and management or organization. Second one is tawheed of worship or uluhiyyah, that you have to accept that Allah is the one that deserves and should be worshipped. And you accept every kind of ibadah that Allah ordered you, and you do it out of one of two. Out of compassion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or out of fear from His banishment and the hellfire in the day of judgment. The last type, or the third type of tawheed, is called Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat. Allah has names and attributes. Every single name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every name has a meaning and definition, and that definition is true in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many are those names? We don't know. Some scholars, they try to collect every name in every Sahih Hadith and every ayat in Quran, and they collected close to 106 or 7, somewhere there. Less than 110. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the names of His. He knows His attributes. We don't know more than what we saw from the Quran and from the Sunnah. Now, your position about those names and attributes of Allah is this. First, you have to believe them. Any name that Allah mentions Himself is His name. Any name that was mentioned by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Allah is His name. Number one. Two, you cannot reject the meaning of those names. For example, Allah says, Razzaq, inna Allah huwa ar-razzaqu dhul quwwati al-mateen. He mentions three things in that. Allah is the one that feeds people and all living creatures. The one that feeds everybody and every creature, living being, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, you cannot do a deviated type of translation, what they call ta'wil. You cannot do it. You have to accept as it is. And it shows what? Someone that feeds, he is a feeder to everybody. He is a feeder and provider and sustainer of everyone. Dhul quwwatil mateen. He has the ultimate power that nobody can break it. You have to accept that. He is the ever powerful. When Allah says, I'm Ghafoor, meaning I forgive, left to right, you have to accept that He forgives. And it's one of His attributes to forgive people. He loves forgiveness more than taking people accountable. Inna rahmati sabaqat ghadabi. He says, my mercy is stronger or faster and more broader than my banishment or anger. So Allah doesn't act upon His angers. He forgives people left or right. So you should know His names. Also, there are attributes. Some attributes came into Quran. For example, Allah mentions in the Quran that He has a face. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. He says the face of Allah is the one that will stay alive and will never be destroyed. So he mentioned his face. And face in Arabic means face. You have to accept it. He has a face. He mentioned. You have excuse in the day of judgment. Oh, he has face. Oh, he has a face. How do you know? In the Quran. You have a proof and evidence you can get away with it. Since we did not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should not describe him any more or less than he described it himself in the Quran or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described it upon him. Period. So you can add or subtract. Period. Allah says in the Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. And this is the qa'idah that you need to have and employ. Allah has no one that's look-alike him. There is no one that's equal to him. And he has hearing, he can hear, and he can see. Sami' meaning the ever hearing. He can hear anything and everything. So there's an ant talking around us. We can't hear. He does. Right here. There's an ant walking, or a small insect walking, or flying somewhere here around us. We don't even know. We cannot hear them. There's a small insects in this whole world, bacteria, virus. They all talk. They have communications. Allah hears when they talk. Allah knows what they're saying. He is the one who designs their sayings, and He knows it. So ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. So قاعدة, let's employ this قاعدة, this equation. You are basir, you can see things, right? And you are also sami', you can listen and hear something. And Allah says, I can also hear and see. And at the beginning of the ayah, He says, ليس كمثله شيء. There is no one that's equal to Him. Now, that is the equation that you need to employ when it comes to every characteristic of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you talk about Allah, His characteristics or descriptions, this is the qa'idah that you need to employ. Oh, this is how it is. Oh, His hearings is not like anyone's. But He has a hearing that is suitable to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sam'an yaliqu bi jalalihi subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a kind of hearing that's equivalent to His greatness and highness, subhanahu wa ta'ala. His sight is a sight that's equivalent to His highness and His greatness, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is no sight that's equal to His sight. It's not like yours. It's not like the animals. It's not like the angels. It's not like the jinns. It's like nobody's. It's like His only and Him alone. ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. This is the description of Allah. قل هو الله أحد. Allah is one, unique. There is nothing else that's unique. There is nothing else that's unique and single. Allah is only single and unique. And Allah who's Samad, He is required, needed. He doesn't need nobody. He's been here and there was nobody. He was in this dunya, there was nobody but Himself subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means He doesn't need nobody. Right? Allahu Samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He has never been God and He never begets, or he doesn't have children and He is not a child to anyone. So He has no relative, no father, no mother, no brother, no sister, no child for Him. And those many people running around and saying He has kids, they just don't know what they're talking about. He doesn't have a kid. Allah says, how do I have a kid and I don't even have a wife? Because there's no wife that's equivalent to Him, suitable to Him, as high as Him, as great as Him. There's nobody such Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in existence at all. So you say every attribute of Allah, you accept it. Because he mentioned it in the Quran. Some people, they had a problem with some parts, body parts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. Allah says, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ. And when he was talking about Musa alayhi salam, he says, وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَى عَيْنِ. You were being protected under my eye, meaning I was watching you with my eyes. He mentioned his eye. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is that Allah has eyes. When he was talking about Dajjal, he says Dajjal huwa a'war. He has one eye. His eye, the other side is dafiya. It's like just a little bump that has nothing at all. The other side is one eye. And he says, Inna rabbakum laysa bi'awar. If you want to know that he is Dajjal, he will claim that he is God. And the sign that can prove to you that he is not God, that he has one eye, and inna rabbakum laysa bi'awar. Your Lord doesn't have one eye. He's not one-eyed. Meaning, he has two. But the Prophet ﷺ says that. Some people, they want to talk about that eye. They talk about that eye inside out. They debated and argued and they went too far. Some people, they said, oh, he has an eye, but his eye, since it's not like ours, it doesn't have this little thing, the round thing that's inside, it doesn't have its hole. How do they know? The question that comes to you is, how do you know? Did you ever saw him? Did you ever see him? How can you describe someone that you never see? If somebody right now tells us, next door, there is a man sitting in this place. His name is Jack or John or Muhammad or Ali. And he asks you to describe about that man. A man sitting behind that wall. Can you describe? The right away response of yours will be, I have never seen him, how can I describe him? Why do you want to describe Allah, who you never saw? You never saw. So now, don't have a problem with the eye. Do not explain it. Do not dive into it. Just leave it as it is. Allah mentions he has an eye. I will accept that eye, period. What eye? Eye that is equivalent to His Highness and His greatness, period. You use that equation with every characteristic and description of Allah. تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ. Some scholars, they try to deviate and avoid making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to look like His creation is. So they said when the hand comes in the Quran, the meaning is not hand. The meaning is qudra, power, or it's a mercy. But that's wrong. Allah could say, I am Qadir, and He says, in Allah ala kulli shayin Qadir, many times in the Quran. He could say, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ. Rather than بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ, He could say, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِقُدْرَتِهِ الْمُلْكُ. Why did He say بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكُ? He chose yad, hand. You will say, I accept the hand, I believe it because it's in the Quran, I will accept it as it is, and I will never dive into it. How? It is a hand that is suitable to His Highness and His greatness. A hand that no hand is equal to. A hand that no hand is equal to. When they played with the words and they said Qudra, there is an ayah that came in the Quran that fight with those scholars. Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, that was Tabarak alladhi biyadihi. The other one, Allah says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ يَدُ اللَّهِ مَغْلُولَةٌ غُلَّتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَلُعِنُوا بِمَا قَالُوا بَلْ يَدَاهُ مَبْسُوطَتَانِ يُنْفِقُ كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. They could not explain this one. Allah says Yahud and Jews, they claim it Allah is stingy. He doesn't give enough. They want more than what they have. I don't know how much they have. They get the most. They wanted more. They said Allah is stingy. And He said, غُلَّتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. Their hands, they said His hand is closed. And Allah says their hand should be closed. Or their hand is closed. بل يداه مبسوطتان ينفق كيف يشاء. Indeed, his both hands, he mentions two hands now. His two hands are both widely open. ينفق كيف يشاء. He gives and provides as he wishes and wills. He doesn't care about the person, the receiver. The faith of the receiver could be anything. The atheists, they get so much. The kuffar, they get so much. The Muslims, they can get so much. The Jewish, they can get so. Without discrimination, he provides to people from his both widely open hands. So those scholars that try to get the tafsir of Tabarak alladhi biyadihi al-mulk as a qudra, they came into dead end. If they say qudra, if they put the place of the hand or the yad qudra, bal qudratahu mabsutatani, if they say that, that's a kufr. Because if you say power and you mention two, that means two gods, two powerful, two powers. If you mention two powers, that means two gods. If they say ni'mah, mercy or bounty, two merciful will be two different people. There will be two gods. That's also again no. So what is your problem? You understand the Arabic. Any attribute, any name that came in Quran or came through the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, accept it as it is. This is the words of Imam Malik. He says, نَمُرُّ آيَاتُ الصِّفَاتِ نَمُرُّهَا كَمَا جَاءَتْ مِنْ غَيْرِ تَكْيِيفٍ وَلَا تَمْثِيلٍ وَلَا تَعْطِيلٍ وَلَا تَشْبِيهٍ. He says, we pass upon them. When we are explaining the ayat of the Quran, we explain them as they came. So yet is yet. Face is face. Hand is hand. Eye is eye. The parts that mentioned in the Quran are all as they are. We accept, we approve it, we declare it, and we don't ask how. How do they look like? How, which hand? How, what is the kayfiyya or the type of hand? We don't raise that question. من غير تكييف ولا تمثيل. We don't say it's like my hand. Or ولا تشبيه. Acting like, you creating image. A hand that looks like this way and that. No. ولا تعطيل. You're not rejecting and refusing it. You accept it, you approve it, you just pass upon it. Like it came in the Quran. Like it came in the Hadith. Period. So, the equation that you use again, you accept every attribute, every name of Allah as it came in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ without raising any question about it and diving into it, and without rejecting it, without describing how it is. You don't know because you never saw it. Remember, you could not describe that man that was sitting behind that wall. How can you describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is above his all seven heavens? You can never reach there, let alone describing him. So you never saw him, don't talk about it. Whatever he said about him in the Quran or said by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Sahih Sunnah, that's who he is. Accept it and approve it and declare it, and do not dive into it by rejecting or making examples of it or doing this. The Prophet, when they refuse hand, the Prophet